women. It was 3 women and me, okay, interviewing me. It was interesting because I have a lot of women that work for me. And what was interesting was that we were talking about relationships and different things, but they were like, do people really care about like people are like guys, like you walk into a room and they're so nervous. They were telling me this. And I said, what people don't realize, like no one cares about anyone except for themselves. So people are so worried about like their appearance and how they look and how are they going to sound and this and that. And what people don't realize, Kelly, is that everyone has amnesia. So what ends up happening is we're so worried and we live in this world of fear
Uh-huh.
and it's drowning us. And then at the end of the day, it's like you talk to the next guy, you're like, hey, what was I wearing that day? I don't know. What did we eat? I don't remember. Who was I talking to? I don't know. It looked like you're having a good time. So why are we so consumed? It was interesting. We're so consumed about what everyone thinks. And I think that's the hardest part when you're younger is you're so worried about what
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Well, that's it makes sense, man. When did you realize that?
Oh wait, whoops. Hold on a sec.
Oh, come on, Ben.
I I realized it. You know what? I started realizing it.
The reason why I wanted to take that is because I got a chance. It's such a cool thing for the podcast. For me, we got a chance to be able to talk right beforehand. I got one of the most amazing men on the podcast that I can never get a hold of. I've had this guy scheduled for probably 6-8 months, but he is the busiest man in the world. Everybody absolutely loves him. And, it's one of those things where the expertise of a man a lot of times is what a person leads with. But what I find with Ben, and you're going to find this out today, is that he doesn't lead with his expertise. He leads with his heart. He connects with people on an incredible level. As far as the expertise that he has, though, what I love about it is that he is, one of those people that makes it very, very simple and connects with people on all different realms. And what I've learned from him over the time is that helping people to realize that it's the whole picture as opposed to this slight little narrow side of it, which is amazing. So it's my honor, my pleasure to have Mr. Ben Reinberg, the absolute, I believe, he's not going to say this, but I believe the absolute authority in commercial real estate, but again, connecting with people's hearts. He's the chief executive officer of Alliance Consolidated group of companies. I told him that that's a hell of a business card, and I am just very, very, very excited and honored to be able to have you on the show, my man.
Well, thank you, brother. What a privilege. Hold on one second. Patty, did we send Kelly the check down south for him for how nice he is?
Hey, I got a problem though, Ben.
I'm in-
I heard it from the very beginning, man. And when we met, I could hear that Chicago in you. And
yeah.
so I believe that your optimism, because we had a business in Chicago for years, for 13 years to be exact. But your optimism, I believe, comes from you being a Bears fan. Can you talk about that? Because you've been holding on since '85.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. You grew up in Chicago and like sports is like in your blood. Like you really become a sports junkie. And it was part of it when, I was interviewing my wife. I gave her the sports quiz because I love sports. And I was like, I can't be with someone unless you love sports too. And she passed the quiz and we got married and 3 kids later. That's how it works. But in Chicago, um, sports is everything. It's like, because it's cold. Like you look now in Chicago, I think I'm going to be there next week. God willing, I am. And it's snow, it's ice, it's dark days. You wake up, it's dark. You go home, it's dark. And the good news is it pushes you to work hard, which was good for me in my career as I was younger, which I'm grateful for. But when I look at the Bears, I mean, it's hard because you look at the Bears and it's like, I'm dying for them to win a Super Bowl. I'm dying for them to be this incredible Kansas City Chiefs team like the hat you're wearing, which I love the Chiefs, or, the Packers, how they used to dominate the Bears, or the Patriots. And you look at all these franchises, I'm like, why can't we be like that franchise? Like, what are the systems in place? And I think a lot of it is, and I think they're a good-hearted family with good values, is the McCaskies. But I feel that they don't have a culture or a community built that's sustainable for championships at the moment. And so I think it starts at the top, like any organization, Kelly. And at the end of the day, uh, it to me, it's where it lies with the Bears, and it's been that way. And '85 to me was an anomaly. I mean, you had the best defense in the world, probably in the history of the game, that were just dominating. And those guys, they'd walk around town. They were superstars, and they were. And then, you look to the Bears, and then we had the Bulls in the 90s, which was a treat. We had Michael Jordan, and Michael was one of my neighbors. His first house and my first house in Highland Park, Illinois, we were kitty corner to each other. And I was really young. I was probably like, I don't know, 30 years old when I bought that house. And then his second house, which he had trouble selling, down the road on Ridge Avenue and Half Day Road, I lived 3 minutes down the road, my next house. And so we would have a joke. I'd be like, people would be like, "Are you following Michael?" I'm like, "No, I'm not following Michael. I'm like, I'm just looking for land that I could have a ranch and enjoy myself." He had a lot of land.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, Chicago is my home. My accent will never leave me, and I'm proud of it. And I'm a Midwestern guy, and that's where our headquarters are for my company Alliance, that I appreciate you mentioning. And what I love about Chicago is I love the people. And now I live in California. I live in Orange County, and there's wonderful people here too. And I
Uh-huh.
love the weather. But Chicago is still, people say, "Well, where are you from?" Well, I'm a resident. I live here, but I really am from Chicago. I mean, that's my, I'm a hot dog, sausage, Italian beef and peppers, pizza, steak, great restaurants, great cultural stuff, plays, concerts, sports teams, ice, snow, shoveling your driveway, watching the snow removal guy come across your driveway, mowing your lawn when I was a kid to be able to build up and have enough of a net worth to be able to hire landscapers, have an acre and a half lot in Highland Park, Illinois, which is a treat. So for me, it's like that's where I learn life and is a part of me. And so it's great. And so I'm very fortunate. I now live out in California, and I'm blessed. I get to hang out with a guy like you. I get to meet incredible people. I get to go to like Secret Knock, which is an event you run, and all the different events you run. And for me, you and Greg, um, you guys don't understand how grateful I am to you guys
Thank
and
you.
how much in my heart you guys are. And the reason why is when I moved out to California, it was a foreign land for me. I'm 53 years old. We bought the house when I was 50 here in Laguna. And I remember coming here and I said to my staff, my assistant, I'm like, I gotta like, it's like a rebirth for me. I have business colleagues out here, but I don't have friends like I did in Chicago. And so I got to build that network. I got to get my resources. I got to get a dentist and a doctor and all the things we do in life, as human beings. And the first round, I met you and Greg, and you guys welcomed me into your home and your secret knot life and allowed me to really build my confidence and network out here, to meet wonderful people, to invite on my podcast, to do business with, to hire for different resources. And there's people out here, in addition to you guys, that have been so meaningful to my life out in California. And so I'm extremely grateful to you. And I've never really told you this,
Thank you.
but it's true because it's allowed me to develop a life out here. Because I came out here, it was like a new frontier. Like I was a pioneer coming out here and said, okay, we're going to open up a West Coast office. We're going to be in Newport Beach. We're going to build a network. We're going to build a big show and a podcast. So we had all these ideas. And the fact that we were able to pull the trigger and implement them,
Yeah.
and then network with people that you guys bring in, has been just a real blessing for me. And so And so, yeah, but at the end of the day, Chicago is part of my life.
Can you, well, for the record, this is a Kansas City Monarchs hat. I just want to let people know because the Chiefs are not in this wheelhouse. You see the Oilers
Okay.
behind me. They
Yes.
all know I'm riding for the Oilers and the
Yes.
Titans. And my best friend Dave is a Kansas City Chiefs fan. But the reason why I did it is
Uh-huh.
because my kids, their favorite show is The Sandlot. And if you
Mm,
saw when you watched The Sandlot, there
mhm.
was I always like the little things.
Yep.
And the little guy, little black guy
Yep.
on the show was
Yep.
wearing a Kansas City Monarchs hat, and that's who Jackie Robinson played for. And
Uh,
so for me, and because it's Kelly Cardenas too, so the KC, the whole nine. But I get a hard time from my KC fans. Let's go to that though too, Ben, because when you were talking, I'm going to go back to the thing that you were talking about, which was networking.
mhm,
Um, a lot of times, networking gets a rap kind of. I mean, sometimes it's a negative side,
mhm.
but what I noticed about you at Secret Knock and at Prosperity Camp, there was an there was a there was an attraction, meaning that you weren't trying to push out anything. It was almost people were pulled to you. Every single person wanted to have a conversation with you. Can you talk about that 20s, 30s, 40s, and now 50s pull that a person can have when they are networking?
Well, it's first of all, I want everyone. I am an introvert. I'm an introvert in an extrovert position. I've been that way, and that's who I was. I'm an introvert. So, Kelly, one of the things I've learned in my Midwestern roots, and maybe from my parents, and God bless them for what they've done for me and my brothers and the education they provide us, was I let my actions speak for my words. So when I get in front of a group of people, it's like I'm there to help them and listen to them. And one thing I've learned, and my mother helped me with this, is be a good listener, be interested and not interesting. Because again, how you network. And I wrote an article. There's a commercial real estate publication called Heartland Real Estate Business, and it's a big publication. They're good friends of mine. It's called France Publications, a big publication in commercial real estate, and it's worldwide. And in the Midwest, it was called Heartland. And so they asked me, they said, you know what, Ben, you're in your 30s at the time. You've been in business for over 10 years at the time. Would you write an article on the power of networking? I said, sure. And in my office, I have a plaque. Oh, there it is up there. And it's on the power of networking. And one thing I've learned, Kelly, in my life is that if I give referrals,
Uh-huh.
I give to people, the universe brings it back to me tenfold. And I just realized that giving, so when I'm in a room like Prosperity Camp or Secret Knock or any of these uh, type of situations I'm in, or networking events or masterminds, you name it, I'm part of a lot of different
Yeah.
stuff now. I realize that if I lead with Ben Reinberg and how wonderful I am and successful, and I've done this and this and this, I don't see any point to it. It's like, but if I go in a room and I understand Kelly Cardenas and what he's struggling with, and I could give him a safe space, an open space to talk to me about what bothers him and where he struggles, and I show him the human side of me, okay, and you know nothing about me, okay, and you start talking to me and I help you. I said, you know, have you considered this? Or, you know what, let's talk about a couple of resources I can introduce you to. And I solve some of your pain and some of your challenges and struggle. Or maybe I enlighten you or with an idea, whatever it is. Guess what? We're building rapport naturally. We're connecting. And at the end, by the way, what do you do? Well, I'm in commercial real estate. I own commercial real estate around the United States. I've been in business for almost 30 years. I have 200 plus years of leadership team experience. And you're going to be like, oh, well, that's pretty cool. And then you start engaging with me and you'll say, well, what do you struggle with? Well, I struggle with a lot of things. I don't want to bore you with my laundry list, but guess what? We start connecting. And that's what's powerful. And I do the same thing with raising equity. What people don't realize in raising equity is they always lead with, we have this great asset or we got this great fund. Like we have this wonderful fund on the Alliance Medical Property Fund. But if I don't ask the investor, and my investor relations people do this well, if you don't ask why why do you want to invest in the Alliance Medical Property Fund? What are you trying to achieve? What are your goals? What does your portfolio look like? If I don't lead with the person first, and it's the same thing with networking,
Uh-huh.
you're not really networking, because networking is about helping people. Networking is understanding who a person is, figuring out what their challenges are, figuring out what flavor ice cream they want, and helping them achieve it so they can live the life they want to design. And when you can do that for people, okay, and I could tell you this from firsthand experience, great things happen. Greg Reed, your friend and our mutual friend, is one of the best at it. I've been through a lot of great people out there, and I am extremely impressed with him every single day I get to interact with him, because he's like that. He thinks he gives first.
Yeah.
Okay. And to me, it's a great role. I do that too. He's a great role model for me. I mean, Greg's a little bit older than me, which is great. So it allows me to learn from his lessons too. And so networking is extremely powerful. And I say this to the younger generation is, understand who the person is, understand and ask them directly. Say, hey, what if I can introduce you to someone? What does that look like? What do you do? Well, I'm in the insurance business. Say you're meeting someone say we're at Secret Knock and we're meeting someone. I'm in insurance. Oh, what do you do? What kind of insurance? Well, I do general liability. I do workers' comp. I do healthcare. Great. What type of businesses you work with? When you start asking questions, rapport naturally builds. And that's a technique that I use. So you start asking questions, and we start learning about this guy. He's an insurance broker or whatever he does. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, where do you challenge? You know what? I'm I'm really struggling with my health. Like I'd like to find a trainer to work out with. I see, Ben, that you train with people. How do you find a good trainer? Okay. It might not be about the business. It might be something about his life. And so we do this with our employees. We do like playbooks where we help them design their life. And part of what people don't understand in business and life is that your personal life and your business life interact with each other. If you're doing well personally, you can help your business. If you're struggling with business or your emotions or whatever, it's going to impact you personally. And so what I realize in networking is that it's more than just business. It's like, who are you as a person, and what do you, we all struggle with some things. Let's not sugarcoat it. And at the end of the day, I've realized that I enjoy helping people. It really is. I have a mentor in Chicago, and he took me through an exercise, and he's a famous doctor, and I love him. He was in Los Angeles, which I drove up just to spend. I spent like 15 minutes with him. I drove 2 hours just spent 15 minutes because I just adore him, and he's helped me so much. And he took me through an exercise to figure out what my mission in life was. He says, you've been successful, you've done this, you've done that, but what do you really enjoy? And I really enjoy helping people. And so it's how the podcast formed, it's how my social media brand, personal brand started. And it's really because I looked at my career, I'm like, well, I've helped so many kids and younger generation, mentoring them in business and even outside in different businesses. I give people advice.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that if you do that, the universe rewards you directly. So I love impacting people. And what's interesting is the more people I impact, the more business comes to me, the more opportunities, the more great relationships. And all this is from helping people, which we can label it networking, we could label it, coaching. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is that for me, Ben Reinberg, it inspires me when I help someone. I get it. I don't know what the feeling is, Kelly. I don't know why it motivates me, but I get calls all the time. And I got a call. I was on Brad Lee's show, Dropping Bombs, a few months ago,
Uh-huh.
and it's stories like this that really inspire me. Some young man who lives in like Laguna Hills or somewhere down by us, he reaches out to me on Instagram. Now, I don't really respond to Instagram that much. I have people that work on my social media because it's about time. It's all about time for me, where I spend my time.
Uh-huh.
And he reached out to me, and someone said, this young man reached out to me, wanted some advice. He's starting a SaaS software company. Okay. Now I've invested in software companies, and he reaches out to me. He says, I'm starting this company and I don't know where to get started. Okay. I've invested money. I got the software ready to go. And I just helped him. And I worked with him for 20 minutes on the phone, and I changed the course of his business, which will change the course of his life, just by advising him on here's the first 3 steps I think you should do and consider. He called me a couple months ago, and he was in tears when he called me. I could hear it on the phone.
Yeah.
And I said, "What's going on?" This young guy, I really like him. And we belong to the same health club. I've never seen him at the health club. So if you're out there listening, just go up to me at the health club. Like, I know I'm only there 3 years a week because I'm working out with a trainer, but I still go there on weekends. So come up to me. I'm very easy and approachable if you're out there listening. So, I forgot his name, but so
We'll
he
find him. We'll
we'll
find him,
find
Ben.
we'll find him. We'll find him. And I said, "I'm happy to sit on your board and help you too." He he's in tears and he calls me. He's like, "Ben, it's so and so." And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "I am so grateful for the advice you gave me, because it's increased my confidence. It's changed my trajectory of where I want to go. It allowed me to learn by bringing in the right people." Because I said, you got to set up a board. Okay, we're going to set up a board. You're going to set up a board. Then you're going to go to the next step. I kind of guide him
Uh-huh.
down the river where he needs to go in life
Yeah.
for business. And he was really emotional when he was talking to me, because the difference is, and you talk about networking, I'm going full circle here, is he realized, he's like, no one's willing to take the time to help me, no matter how successful they are. And no one gives the guidance of, okay, give me a path so I can at least uh, understand where I need to go and where I need to focus my time and where I can build the life I want. This guy's a young guy, he's got a fiance, and eventually he's gonna have kids. And it really woke me up of how incredible a moment that was, to help someone with 20 minutes of my time to be able to change his life. And I think that's the maturation process as you get
Yeah.
older, to kind of learn about like what's important in life. And so, when you get back to like 20s, 30s, and 40s, when I was 20s and 30s, it was always about making money, being able to afford a house, being able to send my kids to universities that maybe I never had a chance to, live a life that I never did. I didn't come from money. And that was my focus. And I think as I aged and as my knowledge and business acumen sharpened, and I was able to sharpen my axe in business and become a leader in what I do, I realized that I have some gifts in business, in life, that I learned, and I could share my lessons. Because I realized, Kelly, I don't want everyone to go on the same learning curve as me.
Yeah.
I mean, you jump in the deep water in your early 20s, in the business of sharks I'm in, and not be able to share lessons with people to go on the same learning curve that I went on. I mean, it's incredible. It's but people say, have you survived almost 30 years in commercial real estate? It's a really challenging business. And it's because it's the lessons I've learned, it's the people I've interacted with, it's being a good listener, it's taking time to care about people. It all comes full circle. And
Yeah.
so what I also realized was the older generation, some of the baby boomers, they didn't really take time to teach me the business. They were more about get in the water, go swim, see if you can keep up with us. By the way, we'll be standing on the island, and see if you can get to the island, Ben, when you're there.
But let me ask you this, Ben, because this comes up a lot, right? So you had been basically tossed in the water. You jumped in with the sharks.
Mhm.
When you do things like that, we end up with a world. We have a Ben Reinberg, who's an incredible man. I've said I like to say the Michael Jordan of commercial real estate, right? And so when we're looking at that, though, if you're going to go back, if Ben Reinberg had a guy who didn't throw him in the water, who kind of tiptoed him in, we wouldn't be talking to Ben Reinberg right now,
Right.
because we wouldn't be making the same cake. So my question always is, how do we create a Ben Reinberg if we use different ingredients? I don't think it would work.
No, it's interesting because one of the things I had to do, they call me a 7-tool player because I could do everything in our business. And as we
Before
start
before you
growing,
go into it too, Ben, can you break down, like, for a 11-year-old? Okay, well,
mm,
let's say a 12-year-old. My son is 12.
okay,
Break down commercial real estate, because this is where the challenges lie, right?
mhm,
Most of the time, industries come up with really complicated vocabulary and vernacular to keep
mhm,
other people at bay. But when we get down to the brass tacks, there's very simple terms that if you know them, you can have a conversation. If you know cap rate, you can talk to a person in commercial real estate. And can you break it down? If I had a 12-year-old right here and you
yep,
said, these are the pillars or the principles of what commercial real estate is, and they had to walk away and understand it, how would you do that?
absolutely. What's your son's name so I know who I'm talking to?
Maddox.
Maddox, that's right. Hey, Maddox. So if we're in a room, we're talking about commercial real estate. Let me just explain what I do for a living. Is my company that I started years ago, we own and manage. So we're what's called landlords. We own buildings, and the buildings consist of tenants. And the tenants could be of different businesses, whether it be insurance to law firms to medical tenants. We own industrial facilities where trucks pull into these docks you see, and they're manufacturing or distribution companies throughout the United States. So, for example, Maddox, you're probably familiar with Amazon. Amazon has industrial facilities where all the products you buy online, they have an industrial facility, a warehouse. Maybe there's an office component in it with people working there. They're shipping out goods to your home so you and your father, Kelly, can enjoy the benefits of. That's what industrial properties look like. Um, Maddox, you probably go to the doctor. Give me a doctor. You go, oh, you go to your pediatrician, right? Well, we will own the building of where you go. So when you go to the doctor's office, we own the building. We call that real estate. And real estate consists of not only the property, but the land that goes with it. And so we own the building and the land and the parking lot where you and your father park when he brings you to the doctor. That's what we own. Additionally, you probably like what's your favorite food place to go to? Oh,
Poppington's popcorn.
okay. Well, let's say it's Jersey Mike's. Well, the retail center that you drive to with your dad and your mom, and you get out and you go, and let's say your mom wants to go to the boutique clothing store, your dad wants to go get a cup of coffee at Starbucks, and you want to go to the toy store next door, right? That we own that building and the parking lot and the land around it. And that's what I do for a living. So that's the basis of my business is I
Why
own
did
real.
why'd you choose, Ben? Why'd you choose commercial? I know you talked about it. You're going to get into some multifamily, because you're seeing an opportunity in that place. Why for you was medical and warehouse and retail
Mhm.
commercial so um, why was it so enticing to you?
It's a great question. I'm asked this question a lot. And being from Chicago and my Chicago roots, some of the biggest icons throughout the world are in commercial real estate. And I graduated from Indiana University, and there was one guy who was one of the largest multifamily owners in Chicago and probably in the country. And a lot of people would go work for him and they'd lease up apartments and stuff like that. And I didn't want to go where everyone was going in multifamily. But what I knew in life, and by the way, I'm 53 years old, uh, grew up in the 70s and the 80s. And what I realized was there was no internet at the time, if you remember those days. And since there's no internet, you go to the library or you get your shoes on and you go to the library and look at microfiche and read books or whatever you got to do to learn, or you ask people and you network. And so At the end of the day, I would look around and I saw families like the Crowns and the Pritzkers and Sam Zell and hundreds and hundreds of families that were extremely wealthy. And I would research and understand what was the common element. The common element was commercial real estate. And commercial real estate, Kelly, spans of hotels. You know, the Pritzkers own the Hyatt around the world, Hyatt hotels. They own a lot of things. The Crowns own a tremendous amount of businesses and real estate around the world. And Sam Zell was the godfather of office. And then he's got multifamily and mobile homes. And he passed away, God rest his soul, about a year ago. And I looked at all these icons and these incredible, talented people. And I saw the common thread was commercial real estate.
Hmm.
And so I remember I grew up across a park that we played sports at, and I would sit on a bench and you know, my family never had a Mercedes. You know, I was just happy to have food on the table and get educated. I lived in a fluent area, but we weren't affluent. And I was a kid who would walk to 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee after a baseball game and just be grateful, you know, for everything I had. And so I would sit on the bench, I'd see these Mercedes drive by. I would see I would see the different families. And I go, one day that's gonna be me. One day I'm gonna learn commercial real estate. Because I realized that commercial real estate was a way to build wealth. It was not only getting rich, it was build wealth. And by the way, George Washington, the father of this country, foundation was real estate and the tax benefits. And what's interesting is how I got started, because a lot of people ask me, is I'm a CPA. Most people don't know that I'm a CPA. And I was working for a firm and I was on an audit with a famous billionaire out in New York. And he said to me, he goes, you know what, Ben, you're not really much of an accountant. And I said, really? What do you mean by that? And he said, well, you're really more of an entrepreneur. And that was in my blood. You know, when I was a kid, I was 8 years old, Kelly. I grew up next to a town named Highwood, Illinois. It had the most bars per square capita in the United States at the time. It was all bars and Marlboro Reds and Marlboro Lights and were big cigarettes at the time. And so I created a little business side hustle where I was buying cartons of Marlboro Reds at the ripe age of 8 by paying an immigrant man to go out to the local drugstore, buy a carton of cigarettes. I'd break it up. I would go into a bar and I would sell cigarettes out of a pillowcase stuffed into my sweatshirt or sweatpants because that's what I wore after like basketball practice. And I would make a profit. It was all cash, and that lasted for a little bit until my parents found out, and they weren't too happy at the ripe age. But it allowed me to buy candy and Slurpees, which I'm a big sugar junkie for all you folks out there. I love candy, and most people that know me know that. Swedish Fish, I think, eventually are going to sponsor me because they know I'm a huge fan, along with other candy products. But with that being said, it so I've always been an entrepreneur, and just to bring it back to the table is that I met with a gentleman and I said, you know, I really want to get into commercial real estate. I think that's where the space is. And he was in it. He was in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh.
And so one night I was watching an infomercial on TV and it was Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter.
Uh-huh.
And Sharon Lechter was on my show. And I said, and it was interesting. So I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you about Sharon Lechter, how she's impacted me, and how blessed I've been. Because less than a year ago, I got to meet her, and it was very emotional for me. So I'm watching this infomercial, and I'm at my house. I'm living at my parents'. I'm a young guy, and my goal is to move downtown Chicago. That's where young guys want to move because that's where the girls are, and that's where the nightlife is, and so that's always the goal. And so saving up money but I'm in this transition period where it's like the accounting gig is not working out. I went through a tax season. I was miserable and I wanted to start my own business. And so I'm watching this infomercial and I order it. And it takes like, I don't know, 10 or 15 days to get my house. You know, there's no like Amazon or overnight express. It's like through the mail, you know, it's like infomercial. and Robert Kiyosaki's on, and Sharon's the lead writer in the book. And I get the book 2 weeks later, and I read it like twice, like 48 hours straight. And I said, "This is what I want to do, and this is who I'm going to become, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it happen." And so I started Alliance, and so Sharon comes on my show, and the first intro was me explaining my story to her
Uh-huh.
about I was up late at night, I ordered the book, and this lady inspired me with her writings of building cash flow, producing wealth, tax benefits, everything that I was looking for. Especially being a CPA, I understood it. And millions of square feet later, and hundreds of deals, and thousands and billions of dollars floating around, I'm the person I am today because of you. And this is what I said to her. And I could see the tears and swelling up in her eyes because she's my guest. And
Uh-huh.
she's like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize who you were and what this was." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I had you on my show just to thank you,
Mhm.
just to tell you how grateful I am for you." And it was really a moment for me because I was like choked up as I'm talking to her because I remember when I was that kid in my 20s and I was lost and I was trying to find my way and I was trying to figure out how do I get from A to Z. And I never forget those moments, Kelly. I never forget where I came from.
Mhm.
And I think that's what separates me from people is that it's that gratitude, it's that humility, it's that not showing off. Because most people, I mean, even like Greg said to me at his event, he's like, "What do you do?" So that showed me when he said that, that means I am doing the right things because of the fact that, yeah, maybe I'm not marking myself well or whatever in the room, but the fact is that I'm helping people and leading with that. And the guy that's running the event has no idea who I am and what I'm doing. I'm probably doing a good thing in the
Awesome,
room.
man.
And so that kind of showed me. And so that's carried with me throughout life. And so I got started and,
What do you wish that you like a young kid starting in real estate, right? So they have options,
Mhm.
right? They have options. They look at, and there's the flipping side, and none of it's bad. It's just different paths.
Right.
But if you sat down in front of a kid and they're about to go in, what would be those things that you said commercial real estate can be
Mhm.
probably the best thing for you? Give
I
me
think,
three.
well, I would first take a step back and look at the person
Okay.
because I don't feel our business is for the faint of heart. And
Okay.
so the first thing I would do is have them work on themselves to become their best version,
Mhm.
okay? Because you're going to go through ups and downs. You're going to go through challenges and the numbers are a little bit bigger and the stakes are a little bit higher. So you first have to look at yourself and really understand who you are as a person and
Mhm.
understand what you want to achieve. But if you want to get into commercial real estate, I would sit down with someone, and the first thing I would do, and this is probably going to be my first book, is how to get in. Is I would say the first step is pick a niche. So I would look at where are you from in the region you live in. Okay, so take me as an example. When I started in Chicago, well, Chicago is one of the largest cities in the United States. So you have different options. You can get into multifamily. You can get into multifamily in the suburbs or the city. You can do both. You can get into industrial, which was where I started in huge industrial market. It's a 24-hour city, Chicago. It's a port city, and you can look at office. You can general office, medical office, whatever. So in Chicago, we had every niche possible, hotels, whatever you want to get into. But if you're in a smaller city, let's just say it's Gulfport, Mississippi, and you're saying, "Well, I want to get into industrial because we have industrial down there, and it makes sense." So you pick your niche and you double down to develop the expertise. So let's say it's industrial. You're going to want to learn about ceiling heights. You're going to want to learn about construction. You're going to want to learn about how the docks work. How many drive-in doors do you have? How do business function with an industrial facility? So when you can focus, and I say this, Kelly, to a lot of people, is you get rewarded for focus, and you have to pick a niche. Where I see people make mistakes in commercial real estate, and this is why I say get into brokerage when you start, because then you dip your feet in different sides of the business. Okay.
Yeah.
But when you're a principal and you're going to do what I do, pick a niche. Now, as you grow and you develop and you have a great leadership team like I do at Alliance, we can start getting into different asset classes and build it because we have systems and processes and people, and we delegate, and people have vested interests, and that's how you grow in the business. But if you're going to start, pick one niche and become an expert and focus. It's kind of like sports. Let's go back to your sports. If I'm Michael Jordan and I play basketball, I'm going to dedicate all my heart and soul into playing basketball. I'm going to practice. I'm going to take care of my body. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to put in the extra hours. I'm going to shoot a lot of free throws. Okay. I'm going to learn how to do my turnaround jumper to separate myself. I am become an expert in what I do. It's no different in business, especially in commercial real estate. So you want to pick your niche. You want to double down, Kelly, on what works for you and what you enjoy doing. And at the end of the day, that's how you develop expertise. I've been an office industrial retail expert my whole career, but I have the ability to get into other asset classes because I know how to build. I have systems and process, and I have wonderful, talented people and resources around me. But I just didn't snap my finger and become the person I am today. It takes work. I still work. People say to me, like, why does he still have the same routine? Why does he go work out in the morning and then he gets to the office early and he starts grinding and he'll stay later than anyone else? Because I don't forget the day I start. I know what it takes to be successful. I know I have to separate myself,
Uh-huh.
and I'm focused on what I do.
Yeah.
I don't, people say to me, like, why don't you play golf? I don't have time to play golf because I am mastering my craft consistently.
Uh-huh.
And I'm in a technology world where it's changing so fast that if I'm not present in what I do, I'm not benefiting the people around me. And
Yeah.
so you have to pick a niche. You got to be focused. You got to double down on it, and you got to stick with it. One of the things I see people do in our business is, especially in this cycle that's happening right now, it's going to happen next year because I think we're going to hit a deep recession. That's my opinion. But is that people give up. They're like, not doing enough transactions, not buying deals. I can't broker a deal. I can't make a living at this, so I'm out. And that's where tough markets weeds out a lot of the weak in our business. And rising interest rates, can't do deals, I can't get financing, lack of liquidity. We can give ourselves, Kelly, every excuse in the book to get out of commercial real estate. I could have done it thousands of times in my career. Okay, I'm working out alone, lenders being tough on me, lost a major tenant, uh whatever is the case, I could have given up thousands of times, but I won't. And I know, look, tough times don't last, tough people do.
Wow.
And that's our business. And so if you want to get into commercial real estate, it's a marathon business. I tell people it's a marathon business. It's the one thing that's great is it's kind of like wine, is you get better with age, you get more experience. Like right now, I'm in the prime of my career. I could look at deals efficiently, I could attract great talent, I know how to help people, I know how to build. And the young Ben Reinberg in his 20s is completely different than the 53-year-old Ben Reinberg. And I've had to season, I've had to have failures, I've had to have successes, I've had to switch attorneys to accountants to people I associate with. I've had to drop friends. I've had to get rid of investors that weren't a good fit in our community at Alliance. I've had to fire and hire different employees from around the country or world. I've had to bring in different systems, consultants, you name it. And so this is the evolution of business. And it's just for sure the evolution of commercial real estate. So when people say it's not for the faint of heart and it's hard to be an entrepreneur, it is hard to be an entrepreneur because if you're not willing to stick to it, Kelly, it's like, you can't even get past the word failure because you can't fail forward. You can't keep pushing forward. And so a lot of it, so where my career has turned, I would say the last 5 years is talking about mindset and talking about what it means to control your emotions and how social media, I wasn't on social media. And I was on LinkedIn because Jeff Weiner's from Chicago, and I was on it early because it's an incredible platform, by the way, for anyone out there. I'm sure everyone out there uses it. I'm acting like I'm a grandfather right now. But with that being said, I got an Instagram literally in May of 2022, and I realized how powerful social media is. But what I learned about it is that I can help people through social media, Kelly, but also I realized um, that I wanted also to be able to share my story.
Mhm.
And people say, "Well, why do you have your handle on Instagram, the real Ben Reinberg?" Is I tell this story for years. I've been wildly successful, but I felt empty inside. I felt like, okay, I've climbed the mountain. And I'm going to keep climbing. But what's next? And it was because I realized that um, I was always searching for happiness. I was always searching of I was that kid on the bench, um, looking for that Mercedes, looking for that lifestyle. And I realized that, okay, so now I have it. What's next? What's really life about? And so I'm searching for this happiness. And I realized it was me, Ben Reinberg, that wasn't happy. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror every day and say, who am I? And so I had to find the real Ben Reinberg. And so I started searching for it and I realized it's within me. And that's why I started working on myself and got into personal development. And then I started meditating. And then I started working with mentors and people from all over the world that have changed my life. And that's how the handle, the real Ben Reinberg, came about because that's who I was wanting to become and search for.
How do you balance this though? Because with a hard charging guy like yourself, you sit on the bench, you see the Mercedes, you see the people pull up. You're like, okay, cool. That's what I'm going for. I'm going to focus in on that. And then you go and honestly, whatever you focus on, you move towards, and you're going to be able to accomplish it, right? So you go after it, and you're relentless in it. In that search, I could even see your eyes just almost welled up as you're talking about it, and as you're talking about your story, the emotion is there. How do you then, when you go into personal development, not apply those same things, right? And just go after the technique, because the real Ben Reinberg, you can't technique that. You can't be like, if I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then I meditate and then I do this, then I do that. If you regiment it, it's not going to, you can't regiment your heart. So,
No,
how do you balance that part of it as you move forward?
you got to want it. You got to want to continue to grow and growth. And you got to surround yourself with people that want to grow. And I've learned that I have to continue to grow and evolve as a person. And what's really important about that I've learned is that when I become the version that I'm happy with myself,
Uh-huh.
everyone around me does better. I impact everyone, the subtleties or how I treat people or my actions or
Uh-huh.
my communication improves or balancing my emotions and how calm I am in a stressful situation. When I can create that for myself, it that DNA just oozes out of me to the people at Alliance, colleagues, friends, family, and it's it's good for my kids to see. And so I realized I don't have to be this tough, aggressive guy anymore. I could be the guy that creates an impact and can help people. And I'll let my actions and my experience speak for me. And so when I was in that room and Greg's like, well, what do you do? I'm like, this is what I do. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, you can look me up. You can do this and that. But that's who I become. And so the real Ben Reinberg is I'm not going to lead with me. I'm going to lead with how I can help you. And social media has been great because it's allowed me to talk about the lessons I've learned, the people that I share with, and to get on great podcasts like yours as well has been
Thank you.
wonderful to, and I'm grateful for it. But at the end of the day, it's discipline. You know, people are like, "Well, how do you get up early and you gotta meditate and you go to work and what do you do?" And this and that. And they ask me about my morning routine and nightly routine and everything. It's because I realize that cleansing for myself mentally allows me to serve, help others, and create change, and also inspire people around me. And when I inspire people, Kelly, my life changes, and I feel good, and I know I'm doing good things, and it's just to me, it's about focus, persistence. It's who I am. I mean, you can't buy that focus and persistence and discipline. It's developed as habits, and I did as a young age. I was, people are like, "Are you great? Would have been better if you had a silver spoon and you can get into commercial real estate." So I wouldn't change a thing.
Hmm.
I wouldn't change issues I've had. I wouldn't change
Yeah.
the ability to uh, not have a deal go as well as it has. There's everything I do in life and we do in life, there's lessons behind it. And there's always great lessons.
Well, I started the podcast, Ben, because of my two kids, Maddox and McKenna. And
Mhm.
I didn't want them to worship idols. I just wanted them to be inspired by iconic people in their fields like yourself. So, what advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names, it would be awesome.
Yes. Well, Max and McKenna, I could tell you, one is don't be like me, stay off the sugar if you can, Uh, but seriously, I would say uh, become the best version of yourself. Is as you are developing in your life, help others and be kind and be giving. And I can assure you, through me and my colleagues and people that I know from around the world, is it will benefit and serve you tremendously. And if you give and you give your time to people and you become a good listener and you seek to understand the truth and what people are saying, you'll do well in life. The other thing I would give both you, Maddox and Mackenzie, that I learned when I was older that I could share with you is know that people have different opinions and they have a different, what I call lens. They look at things differently and they view things differently. And you might not agree with the way they view things, but they have a different perception. And so people like different flavor ice creams. Both you guys might like, Mackenzie, you might like chocolate. Maddox, you might like vanilla. Someone else might like strawberry or mint chocolate chip, but that's okay. And when you can accept the differences in people, you can learn from them. And that's why if you become a great listener and you open up your mind and what I call your lens, you'll grow tremendously. Life will be easier, school will be easier, you'll develop great relationships, uh, you'll be more efficient with your time, you'll be more successful in business, and you'll attract great people in your life. And so be a great listener and really listen and understand and seek the truth in what someone's telling you because you can always learn from people. Even though I'm 53 and I might talk to someone your age, there's always a piece of our conversation that was meant for me to learn and grow. And so continue to grow, continue to listen, and you'll see life will be just amazing for you. And I wish that someone would have told me that at a young age, because that would have catapulted me even more to where I would want to become in life.
Well, I want to thank you, Ben, for all of you out there listening. You know the favorite popcorn of my son Maddox is Poppingtons. He says it's exquisite. He says that if you're not eating Poppingtons popcorn, then it's just popcorn itself. Also with Chris Noggle, check Chris Noggle out, the Private Money Club and the Money Multiplier. And last but not least, Jim DiGiulio. Finley Volvo Cars of Las Vegas. I'm telling you, it's not about just buying a car. It's an experience. This guy has taken my life and helped me to realize that it's not about a transaction, that it's about a relationship, and that'll last a lifetime. And but Ben, It has been an absolute pleasure, man. I'm going to force you to be my friend for the rest of your life.
We
And it's incredible to be able to hear these kind of things from, from the outward, like the worldly part of it is like, oh, wow, he had success in this area and he continues to have enormous success in this area. But it's amazing how you always bring it back to being able to serve others and be able to lift others up. I just think that is tremendous, man. You're an incredible man. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, my man.
Well, thank you for having me. What a treat, and
You
I'm grateful. And look to all your audience out there. We have a lot of people that say, "Well, how do I invest in commercial real estate?" You can do it passively through with our company, and I'm a big fan of what we do. I'm an investor as well. If you go to alliancecgc.com, that's alliancecgc.com. If you log on, Kelly, there's buttons all over the place say invest with us. And if you fill out a simple form, it takes 2 seconds and you'll get a call and you have a conversation. We interview our investors. We look for great people that align with our values. And you have the ability to build wealth for you and your family and create a legacy. And that's what we do for people is they don't want to get in the weeds like we do in deals. And they're like, okay, well, I want to invest and produce wealth and tax benefits in real estate, especially commercial real estate. How do I invest with you? And so we hear that question frequently. And so we create funds and syndications and they do very well. And we have great track records. So if you're out there and you have some capital and you're looking for diversification and you're looking to,
Hey, Ben, we're going to stop the commercial right here, man. We're going to
right,
have all those links in the bio.
all right,
These people absolutely love you. They're going to get in touch. They definitely know on social media everywhere. Ben Reinberg, this guy is absolutely phenomenal, and not just phenomenal at what he does, but phenomenal at who he is. And Ben, you're officially off the hot seat, man.
thank you.